Riders on the storm. Hello. Hi. Hi. Welcome to my Sunday evening. Hey Shazad. Hi. Yeah. Hey Arish. Hi. Rishad is not on time.
Hey, can you hear me?
I
Uh,
can hear
uh,
you, but I don't know what I'm looking at right now.
Let me try and figure that out. There we are.
Yeah, better.
Okay. Is that light a
Great.
problem?
No,
Is
it's
that
all
light?
right.
No?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's all. Not
Cool.
really, not really. So
All
good. We'll
right.
give it another minute for people to join in. Hi, Prathamesh. Hello, Chinbaf. Oh, sorry, Raz. Hi, Tejas. Harish. Uh, we got a few people joined before time, which is great. Hi, Abhijit. How
Right.
are you? We will. We'll give it a minute, Rishad, for people to join
Sure.
in, then I'll
You're
do a
the
quick
seasoned
intro, right?
expert at lives now. I'm just along for the ride, man. You tell me how this goes.
Sure. Rono Wang, hi, hello. Zobi, hello. Hi. That's Krupa, hello. Hi, Krupa.
Hi, Lakshmi.
He's right here. Hello, hi. You can, so as we go along, Rishad, if somebody asks us a question, and if you want to pick it
Sure.
up, just do that, please, yeah?
Sure.
Uh, Hi, Naveen. Hi, Shreyas. Shrey, hello. Hi. Hi, Krupa, you're waving at me from across the room. Hello.
There's my Vishal Venugopal.
Okay. Sriram, Rohita here. Hello. Hi, Burjias, Vishal. Okay. Hey, Tejas.
Hi,
Hi. Jolly
Shans.
Roger. Shrey. Right with Rao. Hello. Amit, how are you? Good to see you. Augusta 800. Okay. Great. So we are at 6:01. Let me
All right.
begin the session. Thank you, Rishad, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For pleasure. Um, for those of you who, and those few of you who already don't know Rishad, I have a short introduction. Rishad is currently the assistant editor for motorcycles with Autocar India. But he's been part of this, the auto journalism industry for, I think, at least a decade and a half, right, Rishad, if not more?
No. A decade. A decade.
A decade? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So a decade plus, and he's worked with some of the biggest publishing houses when it comes to automobiles in the country, and we've seen a lot of him on YouTube. So you'll see
Mm.
him riding all the new bikes and cars that come into the country and making us jealous. It's obvious that we can see him enjoying what he is doing, and we a lot of us look to Richard to give us reviews about the motorcycles and the cars that we want to buy so that we can make a decision. So it's not just a fun job, it's one with a lot of responsibility of getting to the viewer pertinent information that kind of
Right.
enables them to make the right choice. Right.
Yeah. Right.
That's it. And that's a very, very short introduction of Rishad. He also participates in
Very fair. Yeah.
in races for journalists, and he does quite decently at that. If you look them up online, you will know. We'll get there in a bit as we go along in the session. So once again, welcome. Thank you for joining us on Sunday
Thanks.
evening.
Ashok
Okay,
George.
yeah, Georgie is here. Danny,
Georgie says
hello,
hi.
Danny. Hey. Okay, so welcome, Danny. Big fan. Okay, he's okay.
The fun's begun.
Hi. Yeah. So okay. So guys, first of all, what I want to tell you, and what I also told Rishad was that it is impossible to find out anything about his personal life or any details at all if you go to Google and find anything. There are 2-3 pages. I mean, there are tons of pages of him doing his job, but absolutely nothing that you can find online otherwise. Just help me
Right.
create a profile of the person and, talk to the audience and say, okay, this is Rishad, he does so and so, so and so. But there's no background on you, man. You're not even on Facebook is something that I got to know like a couple
So
of
then
days back.
I'm doing what I intend quite well in that sense. I'm glad you couldn't find too much.
So true. So
No,
true.
I mean,
Um,
I've never been one for social media as such. I'm on social media for the job. Uh,
yeah.
we were discussing a couple of days ago. I quit Facebook 4 or 5 years ago because I found it wasn't doing enough for me work-wise, and I had no reason to be there otherwise. So
Yeah.
I enjoy Instagram. Instagram's a fun platform. It's an impersonal platform. It allows you
Yeah.
to share your work. It allows you to see the kind of things that you like to see, and
Yeah.
you don't have to share aspects of your life that you don't want to. So
Yeah.
Instagram is nice. Twitter is a great source of news, so I'm on Twitter. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's mostly for the work.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. So obviously you travel extensively for your work as well. So not too
Yeah,
much
used
time
to.
on hand also to used to until until this happened, right? So yeah,
Right.
absolutely. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Vishad, because before we get into
Well,
the question that I want to ask you, a little bit about yourself. As you grew up, how did you get into this space? How did you grow in this
no,
space?
okay.
What
For me,
nudged you to get
it
here?
was literally a combination of right place, right time. It
Hmm.
was never a life plan. It was more of a dream. I mean, in school, I was in boarding school in Ooty, and we used to really try and get magazines into school once a month, and it was a trip to get a copy of Autocar or Overdrive in those days. And I've still got the posters from my school days stuck on my cupboard at home. So I mean, I grew up surrounded by automobiles. I come from a family that has a background in automobiles. My dad was racing out drag racing the day I was born. That's like one legendary story in my family. So he apparently he
Wow.
won his race and then he got to the hospital. And I would assume my mom wasn't very cool back then, but today we'll say for the sake of the story, mom was damn cool. But yeah, so I have automobiles in my background. When I was in school, I did science till 10th. I knew I didn't want to do science after that because I was in an ICSE school and watching the ISE guys, 11th and 12th guys study was just no way, I don't want to do that. So I ended up doing it, but I went to a PUC school in Coorg. I did my 2 years of studying in Coorg. I didn't spend very much time in my hometown, which is Belgaum. Since again, like you said, nothing of mine is online to
Yeah.
see for people. Yeah. I didn't spend too much time. I studied in boarding school my whole life. I did my junior college. I did my junior college of science, and I did my first year of graduation business management because I didn't know what else to do. And in the end, I ran out of time, and I said, okay, screw it, business management. So I did 3 years of business management, and at the end of it, obvious choice was MBA. I took a CAT exam. I got 75 percentile, I remember, which I thought was damn good. And then it turns out that no college cares about you. You got 75 percentile. So I was preparing to do CAT again. I took a year off to study it properly and all that. And in that time, I approached Overdrive. I was in Pune in those days. I approached Overdrive that was based in Pune for an internship. Sirish
Yeah.
Chandran was the editor in those days.
Yeah.
And he gave me an internship. And 3 months later, I had the time of my life. The internship was awesome. I didn't expect it, but Sirish offered me a job. So I owe my
Wow.
start of my career to Sirish. And
Lovely.
I worked at Overdrive for 7 years, more or less.
Yeah. I think
Editors changed. Yeah, we
sorry,
met when I
go
was
on,
in
go on.
Overdrive.
We
Yeah,
met
yeah.
when, so we've got a few more viewers joining. I just want to call out to all of you guys. And Debu, thank you for joining. Dada, good to always have you. This time as a viewer, but we kicked this off with Debu. Love you, Dada. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining. Welcome. And just to tell you guys, generally, you know, you go. We met at CSS, and I saw this guy who was, tall, lanky guy, and he's just quietly going about this thing. And then I didn't know that he was, he was representing Overdrive at that point of time. But a lot of the time, when you come across people who are in a position like that, they are not very approachable or very friendly to talk to or anything. But I found nothing like that with Rishad. I think that's one of the things that has made me stay connected with Rishad when coming back. He's a very sorted guy. You will see that. And if you get the chance to
I think
interact with him,
anyone in this comment section knows the same can be said about you as well.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed. And then we knew each other for a bit, and then we also went to EICMA. Rishad was obviously there in the official capacity. I was faffing. It was like a dream come true for me. But it was good
Yeah,
fun.
ECMO
It
is
was
great.
good fun, and you can always. I know that I will always go to Rishad for an honest opinion about things, and I get the right information to then make a decision on whatever I was thinking about. So yeah, but this is not about me. This is about you. So that's about Overdrive, and then you move to Autocar
Right.
after that, right?
I moved to Autocar 3 years ago. The shift to Autocar was a bit of a change for me work-wise because at Overdrive I used to do everything. Actually, I started my career doing cars.
Yeah,
Fun fact, when I joined Overdrive, I didn't really have much experience riding motorcycles.
yeah,
I got on bikes at Overdrive, and slowly over time I realized that, hey, motorcycles are more fun than cars. And I used to balance them out there, but when I moved jobs, I happened to be able to say that, and I got the job to do exclusively motorcycles, which is it's a joy. It's its own scene altogether. So I've
Say
been
hi to
doing bikes
somebody you
exclusively
know.
for the past 3 years.
You can see
Oh
one of the
yeah,
viewers that
hello,
you know.
namaste, bike with girl. How are you?
Yeah, but great. And you just need to look at the pictures, and whenever you're there, you're serious about your job, but it's very very clear that you're having a lot of fun. So I think it's great that you do what you love, and we get to know about. I think the water that you're drinking is interrupting with the connection. Hey Priyanka.
Me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. I lost connection
Okay, I
for a bit.
think
Yeah,
the connection went there briefly. So yeah, we were talking about how
she.
fun the job is.
Yeah, yeah. Hold on 1 second. She's saying how fun this is, so she's up next then.
She's right there outside. Good luck with
Yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah. Priyanka, you're up next. You're up next. Okay. Yeah, go on, Rishad. Sorry.
Good luck with that.
I'm sure. Uh, Sorry about the connection, Rishad. I think it is mine. I don't know why this keeps happening to me, but I've got everybody at home off Wi-Fi, unless
I'm not
she's
sure who
saying no.
has the.
No, I think it's me. Uh, this is sad. Connection. That's weird. Yeah, you there?
Can you hear me? Can you hear
I
me?
can hear you. Yeah, yeah. I
Your
can hear you.
signal's breaking up. Okay. So
Yeah, yeah.
basically,
Rishad, just hold on for a second. I'm going to try and switch connections and see if this works, because let me let me just see. Rishad, can you hear me?
back in those days, in the print days, the internet really changed our lives. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Unfortunately, the connection is. Let me try and switch connection so that maybe it's my
Okay.
internet, and my entire family is off the Wi-Fi. So maybe one of the neighbors is using this,
Yeah.
and I don't know about that. Uh, I can hear you now.
It it
Uh,
might it might be me. I'm going to switch to 4G and see if that helps.
yeah, yeah. Try. Suraj says, "Have you tried turning it off and on again?" Yes, Suraj. That's the most typical answer that anybody would, or response that anybody would have, or resolution that anybody would have when something is not working right now. So, okay. Yeah, I see now. Hello.
Yeah, you can hear.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, yeah.
Can you hear
You're
me
fine.
now?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what did you last hear? Where was I at?
I can't remember. I got lost in trying to get the
Yeah,
connection right.
people are pointing out. It seems to be my connection. So anyway, I've gone to
Oh, okay.
4G now. Let's hope that works. So I was just talking about
Yeah.
how the life changed from the days of print only and how the internet changed things dramatically for us.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Today it's all about immediate serve, get the content out now, get the content out, get the content out. That's all it is. So the way we
Yeah.
worked really changed. We used to do uh, longer, slower shoots. over many days, maybe traveling a lot, things like that. And those days are almost done. It's only very rare cases where you're actually traveling or something like that, and in that scenario. Today it's all about quick shoot, get a story, quick shoot, get a story. So I'd say today's work is much more challenging than it used to be. It's still a heap of fun. It's beats being stuck at a desk any day. But yeah, that's effectively what life is like in the auto industry at the moment, in the auto journalism industry.
Yeah. Fair enough. Let me get to the first question that I have for you. Oh, what was the first bike that you rode, and how old were you?
Sorry, I rode and?
How old were you then?
Then one of us has some serious net problems. I can't hear you very clearly.
Wait. No, you're on 4G. Let me try and get back on my network. Hold on a second.
Yeah. Hey, Dad.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I see my dad in the comment section.
Oh, hello.
In the list of people.
Hello, uncle. Welcome.
I can hear you much. Yeah, I think this is working perfectly well now.
Okay, great. Because I think both of us switched to 4G, and my 4G is not that great. So okay.
Yeah.
First motorcycle. Which one did you ride, and how old were you? Oops.
Okay. I actually started riding bikes quite late. Like I said, I was in boarding school most of my life, so I wasn't home very much. And my parents were super strict about being, of age and no riding without a license. And because I was in boarding school, I never got to get my license before I was 19 years old. So it was only after I finished my 12th standard and I came back and I got my license. So I think the first bike I rode was a friend's Yazdi. It was awesome. I'll never forget that experience. I still love the bike. I'd love to own one someday. Great fun. And then I didn't ride too much because I was on a scooter for most of my college days. I used to ride a Honda Dio. And then motorcycling really only started in overdrive. And my first motorcycle that I bought myself was a R15, which I absolutely loved. Yeah.
Do you still have it?
No, I grew out of that bike. The R15 is a sort of bike that it's fantastic when you're a newer rider, and the level of performance it has is brilliant. Yeah, Johan, thanks. I know Dad's online. So I'm very careful the words I use right now about how strict my parents were. And a friend Pratik there also let me ride his Charisma. I remember. Yeah, thanks, Somaya. That was also one of the earlier bikes I rode. And even then, when I had no reference to what bikes felt like, the Charisma was a sofa. It was damn comfortable. It was very soft, but it was not a sports bike at all. So anyway, R15, great fun when you're new to motorcycles and you're new to sporty machines. I loved it. But I think a year and a half later, I just outgrew it. I just needed more performance, and that bike couldn't do it for me anymore. So that bike went to Priyanka, actually. She rode that bike for a long time after. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, very nice. Do you have a bike now that you own?
No, not really. I had from the R15, I went to a 390 Duke, which is the picture you've used. I did a lot with that bike. I rode it to the racetrack multiple times. I really had a great connection with that bike. But about a year ago, my brother Johan, who's in there, he got the bike off me. He bought the bike off me, and he was looking for a bike, and I was done with the bike, and he was going to go and buy a bike. So we just said, you know what, just here. This is the bike. You know how it's been run. It's been run hard, but it's looked after. So take it. So that he's got the bike. He's living with the bike. He's looking after it much better than I ever did all these years.
Nice.
And I don't have a bike at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. So we will come to that one then. Yeah, later.
Right.
One thing that I want everybody to know, whoever is watching, is something very unique. We are in Mumbai, and Rishad rides to work in full riding gear. Full riding gear. I mean, riding jacket, riding pants, helmet and gloves are a given. But while riding to work
with these boots on every day.
With these boots every single day, regardless of the weather,
Yeah.
he rides to work in that gear.
Yeah.
I mean, is that the reason
It's
why
not easy.
yeah, it's not easy, but is that how you're maintaining your weight? You're losing weight while going, like a sauna on the way
I don't
to
talk
work?
about weight. Yeah, I used to have, I used to be able to eat and eat and eat, and nothing would happen. And now age is catching up with me, and my stomach is growing, and it's a pain. So let's not go there. I'm
Okay,
finally
okay, okay.
realizing that there are some limits to how much you can eat. Yeah, but I see. I actually I learned this from Shumi, who's now with Powerdrift. Shumi was there. See, Motorcyclist India says Shumi Part 2.
Ah,
I actually, so Shumi was my boss for many years. I mean, and we really got along very well. And a lot of my perspective of motorcycling and a lot of my motorcycling effectively I've learned from him. I think it's really helpful to have really great to have a mentor, and he was a fantastic mentor. I have no qualms about saying that. Uh,
right.
he was the first person I ever saw who does this, who rides like this, and I am a person who's driven by logic. I I see the logic in doing that,
Yeah,
and it is uncomfortable as shit. For the longest time, people will stare at you, and if you're the kind of person who cares about what people think, you will be very uncomfortable about it.
yeah,
You'll get all sorts of questions, and it's unending. And at first, that used to bother me, but today I don't care. I might ride a TVS Scooty from home to the office one day if there's a Scooty on test, and I will wear that much gear on it. And the thing is, you never know when your luck is going to end, right? And
yeah.
being on a motorcycle, a large part of it is skill and responsibility. I will not deny that, but especially in India, luck, you cannot deny the luck aspect of riding.
True,
Luck and fate plays a big role in how safe you're going to be, and I
true.
don't like leaving too much to luck. So like I
Yeah,
said, I'm logical in the sense. So I want to cover my bases. And after
yeah.
5 years, or no, wait, 8 years of suffering in heat and uncomfortableness and all that stuff that you said, how do you do it? Last year, I was riding home. I was commuting home, same traffic, same road, same speed, about 60 kilometers an hour. Two rickshaws converged in front of me because an idiot on a bike was doing the whole, how the guys in Bombay do that, and he
Yeah,
crashed. And these two rickshaws were parallel, and they jammed their brakes together. And there was nowhere for me to go. And at 60 kilometers an
yeah.
hour, it just came to a halt. And I just went through the gap, and I had no
Hmm.
space, and my right hand hit the rickshaw because I pulled it off the handlebar. My brake
Yeah.
lever got slammed. My brake lever broke,
Ooh.
and the bike went through, and my knee hit the rickshaw. And this is a transport rickshaw, one of those metal cargo rickshaws,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
my
yeah,
knee
yeah.
hit it. And if I was not wearing riding pants that day, 100% I would have shattered my knee. Absolutely would have shattered my knee. But I came
Hmm.
through on the other side, and I was the only traffic that got through that. I stopped over
Yeah.
there, and I was like, shit, how did I get through that, and how am I still on the bike? It was a little surreal for a moment, and
Yeah.
everything was fine. I got home, and later I checked, and I had red paint on my pant. I had actually shaved off paint from the rickshaw. And that evening,
Oh,
I got home, I changed, I packed a bag, and I flew to Delhi for a press conference.
wow.
And that was
Wow.
vindication right there. That's a story I'm happy to share. You'll actually see a post on it
Yeah.
in my Instagram somewhere way down.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I I don't. I used to be very preachy about it. Oh, please do this, please do that. But today, you do what you will. I'll explain to you the safety benefits, but the choice is yours. But my
Yeah.
choice is to gear up completely, no matter what. That's how
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. No, no, absolutely makes sense. It's just that it's extremely difficult to,
It
completely
is.
gear up and ride
It
in
is.
a city
It
like
is, no
Mumbai. But
doubt.
I guess, like you said, the advantages of doing that may not be obvious and immediate and on an everyday basis. But that's what it's like life insurance, isn't it? You hope that you never have to use it, but you make
Right.
sure that you
Right.
get the best cover. And when we were
Yeah.
speaking to Mike last week, he said the same thing. I
Mm.
asked him, what do you think about India and riding in India and the traffic in India? And he said, a lot of other countries like European countries, your safety depends on the on others, on how they ride. And there's a
Yeah.
there's a
Sure.
there's a very simple rule. For example, if you're at a roundabout in the UK, the person on the right hand side is
Mm.
going to go before you. It's just as simple as that. It's not like that with us at all. Regardless of where you are, even if you are
Right.
at a red signal, you still need to be careful about it. So,
Yeah.
so everybody watching out there, if you can put up with the pain, please do. please do wear
Yeah.
riding gear at all points of time, whenever, even if you're riding in the city. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
actually
That
it's
was
actually funny that you brought up riding in the UK and all. I am so used to India's chaos. I hate driving and riding abroad because I get a massive amount of anxiety and nervousness. Like, oh God, what's going on? Is this the rule I'm supposed to follow? Is that the rule I'm supposed to follow? This lane, that speed.
yeah.
Just in India, do what you will and survive and come out on the other end and have a good time at it. You know, I
Yeah.
actually, for many reasons, I do enjoy riding out here.
Yeah, so true, so true. I remember once I was driving, not riding in the US, and it was a harrowing time for me. You know, I couldn't get a hang of driving on the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
side of the road, and
Yeah.
you know, I took an hour and a half to get to my hotel, which was about 35 minutes. And
Yeah, yeah.
I once went over a curb. I didn't hit, well, not seriously, but I just, it was like, oh shit, should I be doing this in the first place? And
Absolutely.
then I had the opportunity to ride once in Germany. You know, we had everything set up. We gone to a factory, and they said we've got a GS for you, and we've got I think a Road King or something. And I was very
Wow.
excited, and I went to the factory,
Yeah.
and it was the day we were supposed to ride out. It started raining, and it got really cold. Yeah, and they said, you know, sorry, we don't, because we were supposed to go to a short airstrip.
Okay.
We were checking out an exhaust. You know, long ago we spoke about that exhaust. So we were supposed to go and just, you know, for me to get the feel of it. And I was really excited, and I was completely let down by the time I went there. I said, I'm really sorry, we can't do this. That would have been really good though. But anyways, yeah, so true. Riding in India is very engaging, very risky, but very engaging and a lot of fun at times.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Okay. We've already spoken about your journey. My questions have just, my sequence has changed as we are talking.
Oops.
So it's just
Sorry.
go. No, it's all right. Oh, this is good. I like it. So this is good. It's
Okay.
more fun. Let's see. Okay. You know, you've got to work with, like you said, you worked with Shumi. Shumi is
Yeah.
very, very well known in this industry, very well respected in
Absolutely,
this
yeah.
industry. You worked with Overdrive, and you worked with now. You're now working with Autocar, and you're working with Hormuz. Right? Hormuz is like one of the icons of this industry for
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
fortunately, I've had the pleasure of spending a few minutes with him, and very cool guy. But you know, with so much experience, you know, what is the experience like working with somebody like Hormuz, and what are the things that you've learned from him? Not just
It was
Hormuz, but
amazing.
you know,
Yeah, and the work environment that Hormuz has created, basically. It's really, it's many things that you learn from it. It's the perspectives of how to be a better journalist. And I don't mean that in terms of how to write better. That's a different story altogether. And the Autocar way of approaching a review is highly technical, highly thought out, very structured. And you also, I still am learning. Every conversation with him is enlightening. You have a problem, you call him Hormuz, how do I sort this out? And he's got a solution for you that you didn't even think of. And he's got the level of people he knows. It's unbelievable. I mean, we're talking about owners of companies, not CEOs and MDs of companies. You know, the families that own companies, and it's amazing. So working with him is an absolute privilege, and it's great for your personal growth as well, because like you said, he's one of the leading guys in the industry. Been there from, if you follow him on Instagram now, with this lockdown, everyone's got so much time to share stuff. So a lot of people are digging up pictures from their past, and you see pictures of Hormuz from 25, 30 years ago, and his racing back then, and his you know, the way he was a photographer when he started off.
Yeah.
And from where to where, and it's an amazing story. It's a privilege to work with him. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I don't know a whole lot, but I think he comes from a background where his father was the Supreme Court judge or something of the sort, right?
Yeah. Chief Justice of India, Supreme Court, something.
Yeah.
Very senior. Yeah.
So, and I believe his sister as well. And then he chose a completely different path and decided to do this on his own. And it's just an example for people.
And he just killed it in this field as well. I mean, he's dominated in this field, like the rest of his family has in their field.
Absolutely. You know, it's just so amazing to not necessarily do what people in your family have been successful with, but just to follow this is a completely different path, isn't it? You're nowhere near doing what your family is doing, and to be successful, to start off something which was, you know, because 25, 30 years ago, this wasn't a really mainstream, isn't it? It's something that you were started
It
with,
was,
you were
yeah, it
building.
was. There were a handful
And
of people who are the fathers of Indian journalism,
yeah,
automobile journalism. So
yeah,
it
yeah,
really
yeah,
started from a very small,
yeah.
small group.
And
Yeah,
to build it in such a
absolutely.
over the years in such a strong manner, and be there today in the industry is phenomenal. Is
To
phenomenal.
lead the
We are
industry. Let's be
yeah,
fair. I mean, to lead
absolutely,
the industry today. Yeah, yeah,
absolutely, absolutely, without a doubt, without a doubt.
yeah.
Okay, so logically, the next question is for people who want to be auto journalists.
Okay,
How do they get into this industry? And the one is get into the industry,
right.
and second part of the question is how do you be successful?
Okay, so there are two ways to do. Earlier, it was the magazines. Today, the
Yeah,
internet has democratized the process. It's a lot easier for people to get into it. Vlogging is huge, but if you look at it, a lot of the vloggers are more about their personal connect with their audience rather than the
yeah,
motorcycles. There are a lot of hardcore motorcycle guys out there who are about the bikes, and there are a lot of them who are the lifestyle vloggers who happen to ride bikes. So
yeah,
I would say today, I mean, it's not easy to get into vlogging because everyone and their uncle wants to become a vlogger nowadays. So you have that challenge. Now there is a real challenge, and there are people who are established journalists who tried to break into this field and found it a lot harder than they thought it would be. And it's a slow climb. Some people explode, and you need to have something unique. So
yeah,
if you think that's what you have to offer, that's one way to approach it. The way to approach it is what in our field, traditional, let's say, auto journalism, is to try and find a job, and the best way to do that is with an internship. Now, the problem with that is you need to start from the absolute bottom. So
yeah,
you need to be willing to work for years on a low pay. Journalism does not pay well for a long time. Uh, it's hard work. It takes dedication, and it takes a lot of willingness to learn and not have airs about you. A lot of young people today say, "Oh no, I don't do this and I don't do that." I used to love washing cars. I mean, my job, not job, what I used to do for years at Overdrive was go on a shoot. Shit, it rained. Okay, come on, let's go wipe the car. And everyone's doing it. The seasoned photographer
yeah,
of 10 years in the industry, Gaurav Thombre, is sitting with us, and we're all sitting and wiping this muddy car on the side of the road. And you need to have that attitude about you that I will enjoy the good stuff, and I'll also work and toil through the difficult stuff and the
absolutely,
stuff that some
absolutely.
people will say is beneath me.
Yeah,
So you need to have an open
yeah,
mindset. You need to be willing to work hard and long from the bottom. Yeah. If and when you have that, then of course, many people think that, oh, I'm a great writer, so I'll be a good journalist. No.
yeah,
I know journalists who aren't great writers who are fantastic journalists. Just because you're the fastest writer doesn't mean you're the best journalist. Uh,
right.
you need to be able to have good command over the language. That's one thing.
Yeah,
In the old days, it was all about writing. If you could write well, that's it. Today, look at
yeah,
us, we're sitting on the internet right now, we're on video. Video is everything. So you need to be able to do video well as well. But
yeah,
you need to be able to analyze a vehicle now. And that doesn't necessarily mean have an in-depth mechanical understanding of it. I'm not a mechanical engineer, for example, and if you ask me to
yeah.
completely strip down and reassemble my motorcycle, I probably do a terrible job of it. I prefer giving it to someone
Okay.
who's more qualified than me. That's not required. An understanding of evaluating the bikes from the perspective of what that bike is supposed to be. So
Yeah,
if I go and ride a Bajaj Pulsar and say, hey, this handles like shit compared to that R15, so the R15 is a better bike. No, that's not,
right.
that doesn't work. Understand what the bike
Absolutely.
is, who it's for, and that perspective and that ability to examine and break down a bike and then explain it to the viewer, that's important.
Yeah,
That comes with time.
yeah.
It takes
True,
years to build that. Yeah. So it's a game of
true,
patience if you want to be an auto journalist and if you want to be a
true,
good one.
true,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
And I think at the base of it all, you need to be really, really passionate about. If you want to be about motorcycles, then about motorcycles, about cars and
That
cars,
that
and
goes
then
without saying.
yeah, and then you're willing to do this.
Ultimately, the passion drives you here.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you are passionate about something, there is nothing beneath you.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
like you said, I wouldn't wash a car, I wouldn't take a change a tire,
Yeah.
or I wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
It's absolutely that. If you're not passionate about something, you
Sure.
got to you just can't progress. If you're passionate
See,
about
because
something, you should be willing
it's
to
not
work.
an easy life. It's not an
Yeah,
easy life. For example, first of all, you're a journalist. The news doesn't stop for you on the weekend. Okay.
yeah,
If a story breaks out, then you got to say sorry to your family and you got to go and sit and write it to get someone, make sure that someone's getting this news out, if it's a big story, at the very least. And then the life of going out and riding motorcycles is awesome, but it's also really strenuous, especially if you're doing video. A typical shoot day for me starts at 4 a.m. Get up, get ready, out by 5 so I can get to Lonavala by sunrise or wherever I'm going to. By sunrise, because that morning light is everything for the photographer. Photographer finishes his work in a few hours, and then I'm shooting all day up and down, doing the same thing again and again for video. And that 8-10 minute video you see on YouTube takes about a day to shoot. And it takes an editor forever to go through all that stuff we shot. Now you've been riding for 13-14 hours, you're wiped out, you're dehydrated, you're pissed off with the world, and you've got to ride 2 hours back into Bombay. At which point you hit rush hour traffic and you spend an hour getting through traffic. You get home, you're home whenever. The next day, life goes on. You go back to work, or you go on the next shoot, or whatever. You know. So you gotta have a little perseverance about you and be willing to put in the work.
True. For all the guys who have just looked at the glamour aspect of it, realize that there's a lot of hard work going on in there.
As with any field, as with any field, the online life nicely glamorizes what everyone else is doing, but it doesn't show you what they're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But tell me something. We had a question over here from, I guess, your friend you were talking about the charisma. He said, what was the experience of entry of internship? Is there a story? Is there more of a story over there?
Not really. You see, people are willing to give you internships. They don't cost them much. Some people pay you a few thousands a month. Some people don't pay you at all. So internships are freely available. You can write to, there's so many publications. You can write to a bunch of them and try and intern with someone. It's not so difficult to get an internship. The challenging part is to impress them good enough that you then get offered, a job at the end of it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And one of the, we've got a couple of young bikers in the same building that I live in.
Right.
We were having a conversation yesterday evening, and I told them to join in today to see what your view is on it. And you'll probably hear from one of them very soon.
Go ahead. Yeah. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, sure. So we were they've just bought bikes, and they're just learning now. And the conversation was just around some basics. About what to do and what not to do when you've just bought a bike. You don't have that much experience of riding a bike. And there's always something to learn regardless of how much you ride. So we're having a good conversation yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one. I only have a couple before we get into the trivia.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What's the best ever auto event that you've attended? Ever. In all the ones that you've attended so far.
By auto event, what do you mean? Do you mean something like a launch or something that I've gone on, or
not a launch, but like for example, EICMA, right?
EICMA was amazing. The first time I saw EICMA, I couldn't believe that show. I couldn't believe the scale of it and how much there is to see. And to everyone watching right now, if you're a motorcyclist and you love to see these kind of things, it's actually worth planning a holiday to Italy around EICMA. And just visiting EICMA for a day or two, and then doing a scene in Italy. It's amazing. And you were with me last year. Remember how? And I wasn't even my first time at EICMA.
Well, I've not attended too many other shows, but I don't think there can be any other overwhelming experience for somebody who's passionate about bikes, because the first day when I entered, I was just stunned. In the first 50 meters, I was stunned out of my boots, and I was like, what am I doing? I had to literally sit down and take the book that they handed at the entry and then mark things down, saying, okay, these ones I definitely want to see. These ones maybe I will see, plan like that, or it wasn't going to be possible to go through absolutely everything. It's just mind-boggling.
It's huge. You need like 2 days to just see everything over there.
Yeah. But that's your favorite one as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Anuj is asking a question saying, any bike which stands out as a commute in Mumbai, which is powerful enough but light?
Well, the KTMs are awesome, but the KTMs build heat. So you need to be willing to deal with heat. The bike generally manages the heat. Everyone says overheat. There's a difference between overheat and get hot. So
Yeah.
KTM's 95% of the time they get hot. On my 390, I realized that if I ride like an ass and constantly rev it all the time and all, then I would overheat the bike and it would shut down and I'd have to park on the side of the road and look silly for 15 minutes until the bike cooled down. But beyond that, they just get hot and you have to deal with it. So in that case, again, riding with full gear, boots protecting your ankles, things like that, it helps me. I used to enjoy commuting on my KTM, but these 200, 250cc bikes, things like the X-Pulse is nice. The X-Pulse T, I actually really enjoyed commuting in Mumbai. It feels just like a normal commuter bike, just enough punch to get to about 80. After that, it goes flat, but you don't go above 80 in the city really. And it's
Yeah.
light and
Yeah.
nimble.
Yeah.
So that kind of bike, the Yamaha FZ25, the new Suzuki Gixxer 250, these bikes manage their heat well. They're reasonably fuel efficient, so you're not like the 390 used to give me about 18 kpl in the city, which
Yeah. Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
from the R15 was a bit of a shock, but I love the bike and I don't really care about these things. So I used to keep filling it up. But a 250 is nice for a big city. They don't get
Yeah.
too hot,
Yeah.
they're comfortable-ish, and they keep running. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on the Husqvarnas? Because I think that's what Anuj was asking.
I haven't ridden them yet. I was supposed to ride them before everything went to shit.
Okay.
They're still waiting for us to review. We had a event lined up and everything. What
Okay.
I've seen of them, I really like the way they look. And I think they're fantastic value because they cost less than 250 KTMs and they offer you the same performance. So
Okay.
I think they're great value. They have tall seats. That's something short riders may not like. And yeah, the rest, I think they'll be good fun to ride.
Yeah. And they're also a very unique looking machine, isn't it? We haven't seen that sort of a design from anybody else, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that sense, yes, and that's something that's going to put some people off as well because they're so minimal looking, they're so small, and we traditionally
Yeah.
like, oh, my bike is bigger, so my bike is better.
Yeah.
We don't like light motorcycles traditionally, and I mean we, as in the kind of people who the masses. So
General
bigger,
masses, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, they believe bigger is better, which is not really the case, but that's up to them. So I don't think it's going to appeal to everyone as much as the KTMs.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Um,
Thanks,
Okay.
Anuj. Yeah, I'm waiting to review it as well.
okay. By the way, Anuj rides a Heritage and he rides it everywhere. So
Oh,
I
lovely.
think heat is
A
not going to be an
sweet
issue for us.
motorcycle. Sweet. I rode the current gen Heritage Classic. Oh, I love that bike. Just feel like you can just sit and keep riding and riding and riding.
Yeah. Okay. So, who's your favorite rider? Everyone
What
has a favorite rider. Who's your favorite rider? You know, whatever. You know, off-road, on-road,
I
whatever.
don't I don't like this favorite business. I don't like giving an answer for what is my favorite motorcycle. I cannot have a favorite because I have experienced too many nice things and I don't want to pick between them. I want a
Yeah.
selection of things. I don't want one.
Nice answer.
So,
Nice answer.
but MotoGP as well. Like I don't care who wins. I'm not sitting and rooting
Yeah.
for one particular rider. I am in it
Yeah.
to watch the spectacle. My mind is blown, or it used to be blown every second weekend when I watch
Yeah.
these guys. And whether Marquez wins or Iannone wins or whoever, I just want to watch the racing and be entertained.
Yeah.
With that said, I think Marc Marquez is unreal. He's changed the game. You never know what to expect from him. And
Yeah.
he's going to, if he doesn't injure himself, he will be the greatest of all time. There's
Yeah.
not too much to debate there. So yeah,
Yeah.
Marquez.
Yeah. Good. After going around everything, you came back to Marquez. Nice. Thank you.
I mean, you ask me a question, I'll give you an answer, but my perspective comes first.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Absolutely. I totally relate with that. You know, it's about the spectacle. It's about getting entertained. And those guys are really, really
Oh, they're
highly
unreal.
skilled. Yeah,
Unreal.
it's just simply amazing to watch them go at that speed. So fantastic. Okay. I think I have one last question, but I think you answered that you don't have a bike anymore. If you had to pick a bike to ride today in the city, I think you already answered that. So I'm not going to ask you that
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So we will head straight
No, that's
to
not my
the-
choice, sir. That's not my choice. I'll ride anything in the city. And I look forward to riding different bikes in the city. I have an interesting commute also with all sorts of roads. So I like riding anything. That's just what I would recommend to someone who wants an effortless bike.
Sure. So tell me something. You did something.
We got a couple of questions there. 1 second. What
Actually,
happened to
yeah,
Rossi? No, yeah, Rossi's awesome. He's a legend, and I still enjoy watching him race. But yeah, no, I don't have any undying fandom.
Okay. We'll take one more question. Rishad,
Right.
Akshay is asking us your thoughts on the KTM 1290 Super Adventure. If you have any views on
Never
that.
ridden it. Never ridden it. KTM makes mad bikes. KTM makes the most uh, aggressive pulse racing sort of motorcycles there are. So they're not for everyone. But
Yeah.
if you want a bit of a hooligan side to your bikes, ooh, I think no one does it like KTM at the moment. Seriously. So you want raw aggression. I'm sure that 1290 will be a beast. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll do trivia and we'll take questions also if we get some in between. We've got about 15 minutes to go.
Suraj is saying I'm not getting dinner today. It's okay. I had an excellent lunch, so I don't mind skipping dinner today.
Sorry, I just kicked my stand there. Okay. Hi, Rishad sir. Which bike? Oh my God.
I don't
We'll let
know.
you
It's
answer
not
that
a-
question.
Yeah, I don't know which bike I'd buy now. Money, no object. When KTM launches the 790 Adventure R, that's the bike I'd like to own for general stuff. But I want a bike for the track. I want a bike for the city. I want a bike, old school motorcycle. I want one for the. I want a bunch of bikes in my garage. So, yeah.
Sure.
Whatever
Totally
comes my way.
Totally with you on that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
What's he saying? Let me see. What's Puneet
Yeah,
saying?
I missed that.
Really about would that be an economical? You want to switch from Puneet RE 350? He's ridden a RE 350 for 10 years. Now I'm greedy about the Duke 390. Would that be fair to switch over to it?
Oh God.
And
Yeah,
my
they're
God.
worlds apart. They actually represent the two polar extremes of motorcycling that's
Yeah.
available in India. You have the
Yeah.
lazy,
Yeah.
slow, and very emotional riding experience of a Royal Enfield for people who don't want to ride fast, and you have the KTM for people who only want to ride fast. So
Yeah.
it's not going to be an easy adaptation for you from that riding style to that riding style. But if you want to change
Absolutely.
what you're doing, yeah, the KTM is awesome. And if the 390 is a little too much for you, then the 250 will actually be a sweet bike because it's not as angry. The gearing is a little more generous and longer. So it's not all the time. And you might want to look at that. 390 Adventure is a nice and comfortable version of it. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I actually want to get a 390 Adventure to start riding off-road and start learning on the bike. And then
Get an
we'll see.
X-Pulse.
I'm
Don't get a 390 Adventure. If you
Yeah.
want to do it just for off-road, don't get the 390 Adventure. The X-Pulse is a
okay.
better off-road bike. The X-Pulse is terrible for covering long distance. The 390 Adventure is awesome at that. The 390 Adventure
Yeah.
will do off-road, but it demands more skill from its rider because it doesn't have enough suspension travel. It doesn't have a strong enough bottom range. Forget the alloy wheels, and
Right.
that's all rubbish. I mean, it's only going to take really hard riding for you to damage those rims. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't buy that bike for off-road riding. I'd buy that bike as the one bike for me that I will commute on, the bike that I'll go to take to tour to South India, the bike I'll take to Ladakh,
yeah,
the bike that
yeah,
will do
yeah.
everything. And I think it'll do that
Yeah.
excellent, but not I want to go off-road, so I'm buying a 390 Adventure. No.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough,
Yeah.
fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Absolutely. Okay, somebody is asking me. Sammy, you look happy. How many down? It's 6 o'clock in the evening on Sunday. I'm just happy because we are talking motorcycles and I'm talking to Rishad. It's a lot of fun for me.
Yeah.
That's my high,
Yeah.
man. That's what gets me high. Okay. People are not letting us to get to the trivia.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we've got 12 minutes. So let's go through it and we'll take a few questions. Puneet again has a question, but we'll
Okay.
figure it out. Yeah. So, okay.
Okay.
For question number one is what world leading helmet company started as a hat manufacturer? Hey, Ricky.
Probably Arai helmets. Yeah?
Yeah. Right. Good. Let's go to the
Okay.
second one.
Okay.
Which motorcycle manufacturer originally manufactured weaving looms?
Not any Indian manufacturer that I know of.
No, not
I
an
don't
Indian
know.
manufacturer.
I don't know. Maybe a European. I don't know. Japanese, European manufacturer maybe.
Yeah.
Not
Japanese,
someone I'm aware of.
Suzuki. They first started making motorcycles in 52.
All
But
right.
before that,
That's something.
motorized weaving looms. Yeah. Okay. Third one, since you follow MotoGP, I have a few MotoGP questions for you. What is the
Hopefully I get
minimum
this.
allowed weight for a MotoGP bike? Minimum allowed weight. Do you need options?
I think it's 157 kilos.
Okay, I'll give you that 1 kilo variation.
Okay.
It's 158,
Acha,
but we'll give you that 1 kilo.
Chalo. Okay. हाँ.
Uh, how many manufacturers were supposed to take part in the MotoGP 2020?
3 European, 3 Japanese, 6.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Okay.
Fuel capacity of a MotoGP bike.
I got the last one wrong. 22 liters.
Yeah, 22 liters is right.
Okay, good.
So far, so good. So far, so good. 1 out of 5. 4 out of 5. Sorry. Okay.
Hmm.
Who has the most wins on of the Isle of Man TT?
Joey Dunlop.
Yeah.
26.
Joey Dunlop
I
is.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. From
Yeah.
77 to 2026 wins. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Who has the maximum number of MotoGP wins?
Sorry, say that again. Your voice skipped.
Maximum number of MotoGP wins.
Giacomo Agostini.
Yeah. Over 100?
That's because-
Over 100, I believe.
120 something, because I know Rossi's been trying to catch it for the last 5 years and it's probably not going to happen. 120 something? Yeah, just over 120,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact number. I got this wrong the first time when I was asking a question. I thought it was Rossi. It was 89, but then later I realized it's not him. So yeah, you're right. You're right on that
Yeah.
one. Next question. Maximum number of Dakar Rally wins.
It's one of the guys who now drives cars, either Mark Coma or Peter Hansel or...
Yeah.
Yeah, one
Or
of-
I'll stop you at that because you got you got it right. Stéphane Peter Hansel from France. He's got 13 wins.
Yeah.
That's just out of this world, man. Totally.
These
Okay.
guys killed it on bikes and then they got old and they just went into cars. I mean, I've been to the Dakar once. It's unreal to slightly deviate. It's the craziest thing. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, you asked me the craziest event I've ever seen. Dakar. Dakar is the craziest event
Yeah.
I've ever seen. It's unreal. It's a spectacle of human endurance and the ability for a person to push themselves. I was there for 3 days and I was dead at the end of it, and these guys out riding
I think
600-800 kilometers a day through the desert. Oh, unreal. Must do.
It's
must do.
amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Next one. Maximum number of Superbike World Champion wins.
Jonathan Rea took that lead last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 years, I think, from 15 onwards to
Yeah.
last year. Right. Last question. You've got 8 out of 9. What is the highest ever selling motorcycle in the world?
See, I don't know exactly because it's very hard to get worldwide sales data. I would actually think that today it should be something from Hero, probably the Splendor with its accumulated sales. But I think the Honda Cub is considered the best-selling motorcycle. But
Yeah.
I think that doesn't. It's no way to clearly say it's that accumulated sales data all these years through all markets is not easy to find. I know this because I was actually doing a story on something similar. So we went researching into data, and it's not clear. With
Yeah,
the
so
amount of
I think
numbers we have in India, it needs to be an Indian bike.
Yes, absolutely. So you've given me the most elaborate answer for this question that I've asked. Quite
So
a
what
few
is the
people,
answer?
and this has been the.
What's your answer?
Supposedly, it's the Honda Super Cup. It's sold over in Indian terms, if you want to ask, about 10 crores. But you're right.
Okay.
That data really isn't 100% concrete out there. And given the sheer number of Activas that sell today, I'd be surprised if it's not an Activa.
No, Activa is a recent phenomenon. So the Splendor is still
The
today's
Splendor,
best-selling
yeah,
bike,
the
and it's
Splendor.
been out since
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
94.
Absolutely.
So our numbers just make everyone else in the world look pointless. It's
Yeah,
why every
so
foreign
true.
manufacturer gets so attracted to Indian markets. Oh, let me go to India and make some money. And then they come here and then they realize what's happening. Right.
Okay, let's
So,
see.
yeah.
We have another 8 minutes to go, but I'm not sure
Okay.
whether this will last or not. Let's see. If you have any questions, it's a good time to ask them now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's.
Thank you, Turbo Tuners.
Thank you. Oopsie. Okay. So while we'll take any questions that people have, I want to get a message from you for the viewers, and what I want to ask you really is there's a bike out there for everyone, right? It's
Yes.
everybody has different personalities, riding styles, Physically they are all different, tall, short, whatever they come in all sizes. What would you recommend to people? What are the parameters that you would recommend to people? What are the things that they need to keep in mind when they are choosing a bike for themselves? Because the reason why I'm asking you this question is today there is, like there's a lot of peer pressure as well when it comes to bigger bikes, and when it comes to like somebody asked RE versus 390, they're poles apart, right? And so considering all of these things, what should you look at when you are picking the right bike for yourself?
I actually have quite a bit to say about this because being online, with my reviews being online, I get to see the comment section. And first of all, people need to understand that when they go to a review, they're not finding gospel truth. They are finding an opinion. It may be my opinion, it may be someone else's opinion, but this is an opinion. I happen to be in the position I am because I have this many years of experience, and my opinion may or may not be better than the general opinion, and I may have better perspective than the general opinion. That's the first thing to understand. The second thing to understand is no one makes shit bikes anymore. Most motorcycles are not rubbish. Okay, there's very few. And generally nowadays when I ride a bike and I get off and say that was shit, is generally when it's a Chinese bike. When you get these direct import bikes and rebranded, a lot of EVs nowadays. These are the only bikes that make me feel that way. Even if it's a 100cc motorcycle, for what it's meant to do, they're doing a good job these days. So when you are out to buy a motorcycle, first of all, it helps to know the person somewhat who is reviewing your bikes and what their sort of opinions are. Some people are more tuned towards adventure bikes and are more specialized in that category. Some people are more towards sport bikes. Then you need to understand what you want from your bike. Okay, because I may tell you that the KTM is better than the Triumph. And I'll try in my video to give you the best explanation for why it's better than Triumph and why the Triumph is better than the KTM.
True.
But I am not aware of what creates. Motorcycles are an emotional thing. They're supposed to create an emotional reaction in you. And only you will know that. And thank God for test bikes. So my opinion, if you want to buy a motorcycle, first of all, ask yourself what experience you want. Do you want to go fast? Do you want to go slow? Do you want to enjoy a gentle ride? Do you want to be all about the sportiness and the high speeds or whatever? Do you want to ride on the track? Do you want to ride off-road? First, figure that out. Then figure what sort of motorcycles you want and start researching them, watch the reviews, everything. Do not take reviews as the answer for you. Take reviews as the guidance. Pick up these points from the reviews. From there, please go to the showrooms and take a test ride. Or if you've got a friend who's generous with the motorcycle and a friend who trusts you and says, okay, take a ride, go for that. But anyway. And then you come to a conclusion. Don't rush the process. Draw up the pros and cons, figure out what works best for you. And if you don't like the bike, sell it and get another one. You have one life. There are many motorcycles that can fill that life. I don't think there's this rush to I must get to that 1000cc bike and then I'm set for life. You will never be set for life as a motorcyclist. You will keep evolving. Like I evolved from my R15 to my 390 Duke, which today is too compact for me. I don't feel comfortable on a bike, so I'm done with it. And now I'm on to the next thing, and then I'll be on to the next thing. So keep an open mind, try as much as you can, and keep riding.
Yeah. Fair enough. I think makes a lot of sense. Every rider is different. Every rider is different, and I guess you need to just I think what's important in what you just told us is that you need to take the reviews as a sort of a guideline, not really be all and end all, and then go and look for something that you would be comfortable with. So I think that those were my questions, but let's see. We might have I get only a 30-second notification, I think, before Insta shuts down when the time is over. But we can probably take one last question, I think. Let's see.
Sure. It's the new Duke 200. Yeah, the new Duke 200. The first time I rode a 200 Duke in 2011 or 12. Oh, it was insane. It was so short geared and it was ready to explode all the time, and I loved it. Today's bike is a little more calm and tempered with BS6 and the changes that have come over the years. Still a great first bike. It now has ABS. But the thing with KTM's is, even if it has just a top speed of 140, which doesn't seem like a lot, they're aggressive bikes and they push you into riding aggressively. So you need to have a slightly responsible bent of mind to know when to open the bike up and when to just sit back and take it easy. And it takes a long time to get there. There are times when even today, if I ride a KTM and I'm like, okay, I should not have done that. Time and place. And KTMs don't seem to understand time and place very well.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
true. Okay, I think that was the last question we could take. We have 25 seconds remaining. So with that time, thank you, Rishad, very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think we got some very unique questions and comments today. So I guess
I hope
everybody
so, yeah.
enjoyed it as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with that's it.